Chapter 35. I turned off the recorder and put it back into my knapsack. It was almost 3 o'clock, but just like most Fridays now, none of us moved. We'd started ignoring that time weeks ago. It was strange to remember that we'd come into this room, confused about why we were here. Now, we could barely remember a time when we weren't here.
Hey,
Amari said.
since we all doing some sharing, before we all bounce for the weekend, I want to show you something.
He opened his drawing pad and we all leaned toward him.
I've been copying some of these comic book guys.
Amari said.
I got some sweet characters. I'm going to put all of y'all in there. I'm gonna put all of y'all in there too. It's going to be so tight. It's like my brain is frying with ideas.
Amari had the biggest smile on his face that I'd ever seen, which made the rest of us smile and look through the comics. Even me and Holly went over to see what the four of them were getting all excited about.
Some people try to hate on comics, but they get you inspired, you know.
Amari said.
It's like, man, look at this guy.
He opened a Black Panther comic, and the Black Panther was big and black and strong on the page. Outside the art room window, the schoolyard was bright and cold. The strange thing is, I don't remember any other sound but Amari's voice. There must have been kids playing. There must have been yelling and laughter and horns blowing, but none of it comes back to me. Just Amari's smile, his comic books, us gathering around him.
Like, what if the Black Panther was just a kid in the school?
He said.
Just a regular kid. That's what I was thinking last night. Every comic book hero used to be a little kid in school once. So what if kids like us are the superheroes, right? The real superheroes.
Amari was talking fast. The other boys were nodding as he turned the pages of the comic books.
Like Esteban,
Amari said.
who's the Dominican Superman. I mean, we got Miles Morales. He's the Puerto Rican Superman. So we got Tiago covered, but Ashton, who's the superhero whose dad works at a key food, and like for me, who's the guy who doesn't get to play with guns, so he has to find out another way to destroy.
Amari looked at me.
Haley, I got you too. Superhero girl who lives with her uncle. I got you too, Holly. Your richness is your superpower.
I waited for Holly to get mad at Amari for calling her rich, but she didn't. She was even smiling a little.
I'll take it.
She said.
Just hook me up with a nice cape.
We must have headed out soon after that because I remember us all walking down the hall and out into the schoolyard together. We walked slowly, still talking. Chapter 36.
What do you think your superpower would be?
Holly asked me as we waited for Kira to pick us up after school. Someone had drawn a hopscotch game just outside the schoolyard fence, and she started jumping up the numbers, then turning and jumping back down them again. I had just been wondering that myself, wondering who the superhero is with a dad in prison.
I don't know.
I said.
What about you?
I'd want super focus, super be stillness. I want to sit like a statue for hours and hours and be like a sponge. Everything anyone said to me would get soaked right up, and I'd be the most brilliant person ever.
Well, you're already smart already, Holly, even if you can't sit still.
But imagine if I could. Then I'd be even smarter. I'd probably be graduating high school at like 13.
But then you wouldn't be in school with me.
I said.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Then I think I want us to have the same superpower.
Maybe I want to fly.
I said.
Me too.
She said.
That's easy. Everybody wants to fly, but what else?
I thought about my dad. There was a room in my brain where I was mad at him. Some days I opened that door and it made me so sad that I just sat for hours, staring off at nothing. Those were the days Miss Laverne and my uncle, and even Holly left me alone. Those were the days filled with gray light and cold, damp air. That was the room where I realized I couldn't forgive him.
I think
I said slowly.
I think I want to forget.
Holly stopped jumping.
Forget what?
About what happened between my mom and dad. I want to just imagine that I always had a dad, that I never had a mom.
But you did have a mom.
I know.
You want to forget even the teeny bit you know about her?
Holly
It's,
frowned, confused.
it's not that just I want to be, it's just I don't want to be sad and mad when I think about it all. I just want to think about the good stuff.
Then you want forgiveness, not forgetness.
Holly said. Forgiveness, I thought. I want forgiveness. Standing there, I realized I'd have to first forgive my father. Not forget, but forgive. Holly started hopscotching again just as Kira pulled up in the car. Chapter 37.
Check this out.
Amari said to us on Monday morning. We were in the schoolyard before class, and the day was surprisingly warm. Amari opened his book and slowly started turning the pages. We all leaned in over the pictures. And there we were, on every single page. Tiago shooting webs from his hands over buildings and vans and cars. Esteban flying over an ocean, and, far down below him, the same tiny man over and over again, with a t-shirt on that said Poppy. Holly was Catwoman in a fancy building, her sneakers almost bigger than the rest of her, and we all laughed. When Amari turned the page again, there I was, my hair a mass of curly red wires that seemed to be shooting electricity.
That's tight.
Ashton said.
It's like I've always had my superpowers with me.
I said.
I was born with red hair.
Yep,
Amari looked up at me and smiled.
that's the cool thing. There's all kinds of ways to get your superpower. You take somebody like Superman, who was born with his superpower, and somebody like Spider-Man. The way he got his power was kind of tragic, right? But then it became this good thing. That's what's up.
That night, as I waited for my uncle to come say good night, I thought about Amari's drawing of me, about the brilliance of my hair, the superpower in it, and I thought about my mother and father. Tragedy is strange. It takes away, and it gives too. I couldn't ever imagine a life without my uncle. His laughing, his stories, the way he looks at the world. But until I saw Amari's drawing, I hadn't really thought about my hair. The power is both my mom and dad running through it, through me, and their moms and dads, and theirs. The A and B of me, the C and D, as Holly said. I smiled. My mother was gone, but she was continuing too, inside of me, and that was its own superpower.
You ready?
My uncle said. He stood in the doorway, holding his guitar. Before my father went to prison, they played music together. My father on the piano, my uncle on the guitar. Lame songs about mountains and clouds and rainbows, my uncle said. But then when my father went away, my uncle started writing his own music, telling stories in his songs. Sometimes he played them for me. I like falling asleep to the quiet hum of his guitar and his soft voice, the notes trembling. My uncle had lived through it all, the car accident, my father being taken away, him suddenly not just being my uncle, but my mom and dad too. He was my superhero.
Yeah.
I said. I wanted to tell him about the day, but instead, I pulled up the covers over me and smiled. My uncle sat in the small chair at the foot of my bed and started strumming his guitar.